Hello there, welcome to another podcast. I've headed in around Sheffield on one of the urban rivers and I'm out Czech nymphing for Grayling today. The plan was actually to do a podcast on my fly fishing for pike and perch, but I've had so many blanks recently I just can't find any pike or perch on the fly that I've decided to come and hopefully get into a few Grayling. I'm stood in the stream looking upstream, got the bridge ahead of me. You wouldn't even really know I was in a city, to be honest. It's all tree lined on the banks, bushes. There's some power cables crackling nearby as well. I think the only hint of it's an urban river really is the graffiti under the bridge. The river's been up. It's been up and been down. You can see on the banks where it's run down and pushed all the grass and the vegetation over, and then it's dropped again. So it should be a good time to fish. I've only got a really short session this morning. I've got lots to do today. Got some flies to tie. I've got the daughter to pick up from school, so I'm just literally having an hour. And so what I've done, instead of fishing with 3 Czech nymphs, I've just tied one on the end, just a Czech tan bug, one of my favourite nymphs. And then I've pinched on a split shot about 6 inches above the Czech tan bug, just to get that extra weight. If you're not going to fish with 3 flies, you're going to fish with the one. It's essential to get that fly down deep, so that's why I've pinched on the split shot. It's got the usual 9-foot 4-weight rod, about 9 feet of leader with a Czech nymph on the end. So let's give it a go. First cast is there's a little tiny weir above me, and I've got a bubble stream heading down from the weir. A bit of turbulence in the water, and just going to prospect upstream with the nymph, just flicking it up and letting it trundle down. I've greased up the little braided connector on the end of the fly line just to make sure it's sitting nice and high in the water, and that's also my strike indicator. So if the braided connector moves, if it dips away, if it stabs under, then I will strike. I'm just going to head out into the stream here, and got the old wading stick. It's essentially in this river. It looks fairly deep actually where I'm just tapping this fly into. I'd say the river's about 18 feet wide here. Nice flow to it, very rocky bottom, and like I say, I've got bushes and trees on both sides and power cable well out the way. I'm not in danger of it. You can just hear the crackle of the power cable in the air as we head upstream. So with the old Czech nymph, I'm just one cast and then one step up river. My Grayling season so far has been brilliant. I've had plenty of fish. It's been really, really good. My pike and perch, on the other hand, has been a disaster. I just can't seem to find any fish this year. Fishing on the big reservoirs, I've been fishing on the canals, and I've very little. A few perch here and there, and the odd small pike, but it's been a real slog. I'm just heading up towards the top of this pool now. Water's quite fast and turbulent, which is how I like it for this kind of fishing. Right, I've done all I'm going to do in this pool, so I climb over this little weir and head up to the next little pool. And it's there's a little kink in the river, and then there's a bridge going over the river. The usual graffiti underneath it. Sometimes there's also some unspeakable things under these bridges. Right, there's a nice little bubble stream over near the far bank, so I'm going to head over to that and fish that up towards the bridge. A few willows hanging over. You can see where the branches have been buffeted and bent by the recent high water. This looks a good spot. So the trout season's finished, and we're targeting Grayling today, which is the species that you mainly catch here at this time of year, but there are some trout in here as well. It's just shallowed up a bit here, so I'm just going to start catching the bottom, but that's okay. You should be hitting the bottom every now and then when you check nymph, and I always think if you're not touching the bottom occasionally with your fly, then you're not fishing deep enough. Where most people go wrong in this method is they're not getting the flies down deep. The feeding zone on these rain-fed rivers is normally near the surface or near the bottom, so you've got to get your fly to the fish. Right, that's that little run fished out, so keep heading upstream, and just after the bridge, if I head under the bridge, there's a couple of large boulders, and then on the left hand bank there's a long line of bushes, and you can see the leaves are a mixture of yellows and oranges and greens as we head into autumn. But down the line, right next to the vegetation, there's a long deep channel, perfect flow for grayling and for Czech nymphing. So we'll head under the bridge now and then drop the Czech nymph into that channel. You can see the factories and the warehouses just behind the trees, and every so often I get a whiff of confectionery or bread or some kind of food that's being prepared in one of these big food factories. It's quite pleasant. It's quite a mild day actually. It's about 12 degrees, perfect for being out on the river. So again, just dropping the old Czech nymph really close into the vegetation now, into the deeper water, and letting it run down. A little bit of movement there in the line, but nothing there when I struck. Yes, and we're in. That was a very tentative take, very tentative. Just heading downstream of me. There we are. Lovely little grayling, about half a pound. I'll just slip it straight back. There she goes. Beautiful. First one of the day. Well, that's something to take quite late in the drift, which means it's probably when the Czech nymph was at its deepest point. And the golden rule with these fish is if you catch one, you don't move, because they do shoal, and you can often, especially when it's cold, have several fish out the same point in the river. So we'll just stay where I am for a little while and have a few more casts. The lovely thing about this method of fishing is you really can explore every little run and rock, and so accurate. You can just run the fly down each little line of river that you think there's going to be a fish. And it's close quarters fishing, so there's another little stab away. Oh, missed that one. I was looking upstream to see what was happening there, and looked down, the line had shot away, and again, be a fish playing with it. It could just be a rock. I think it's just shallowed up a touch. Yes, it's just a rock, because I'm now snagged on it. And the smell has changed from confectionery and bread through to something a lot less desirable. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Right, the fly's unstuck, so I'm going to head upstream a bit more. Now I know up from here there's some very deep, slack bits of river, and they're not really suited to Czech nymphing, but I might sling a nymph up there anyway, because I think there's a few decent chub in here as well, and it would be lovely to be able to pick up a few chub or something like that on the Czech nymph as I go through, and they're likely to be in the deeper bits of river. In fact, there's a rise just in front of me. That'll be a little grayling there, I would have thought, or a trout, but very, very still, slack water. It's not very good for Czech nymphing. I'll try a few anyway. I'll walk and fish at the same time, just in case there's something there that's going to have a nobble. When I'm river fly fishing, I think it's just the way I've been brought up, the rivers I learnt to fish on as a child, but I really like fast water, really fast and ripply and rocky. The slower glides and the very canal-like sections of river I find a little dull. Even though there's plenty of fish rising and they're great for dry fly fishing, I just find them a touch boring. I much prefer fishing the fast runs, even with dries, you know, clink hammers and things. Snagged there. So this is the other problem with putting a heavy nymph in slacker water, is that you end up hitting the bottom. Yeah, I'm just picking up bits of debris here, so I'm going to move. I'm going to keep going up. I know there's a nicer piece of water upstream, so I'm not going to waste my time, even though it's full of fish. I can see him dimpling the surface, and I really haven't got time to be changing flies today, so let's head through this and work our way a bit further upstream. Banks are getting quite sheer now. There's a bit of work being done on the banks to shore them up, and kind of big walls, and the trees are quite large and old, and you wouldn't know you were essentially in the middle of a city. I have to tuck the old vest in the waders here because I've not got a wading vest on, and I think I'm going to be up to my waist. Oh, it's deep. Oh, there's a fish just risen in front of me. It's so tempting to put a dry on, but if I do that, I'm gonna get sucked into dry fly fishing, and before I know it, the time will be up for today. In fact, there's a fish rising in front of me, and as I'm wading up, it's swimming away from me, but it's actually sipping bits of food on the surface and rising as it swims away. There's a bit over the far side that might be worth a throw with a Czech nymph. Yeah, we'll give it a chuck. It's just a bit of a feature, a bit of a bubble stream. Might be worth just a throw. Very deep over there. That's where I'd expect maybe to pick up a bonus fish like a chub or even a perch. I've had perch on the Czech nymph before. You know, where I'm fishing these deep holes. No, nothing going to take it today, so we'll keep heading upriver. So I've done quite a bit of fishing since the last podcast. Actually, now my coaching has started to drop off slightly, as it does in autumn and winter. It's the time when I get out to fish, and because of that, most of my fly fishing is grayling on the rivers, really nearby, locally, and then pike and perch on still water, which is a big thing for me. That was a take. Yeah, the pike and perch is a big thing for me, especially the pike on the fly. I mean, catching a 15-20 pound pike, which aren't uncommon, on the fly is fantastic. You know, it really is a big fish to be catching on a fly rod, and it's wild and it's predatory and all those good things. So there's a little bit of a quicker run as well, so I'm just having a few chucks in that as I walk upstream, and just had a take straight away, but I missed it. These grayling can be incredibly quick though. Nymphs in and spat out within seconds. I think I've spooked that one. On the right hand side there's an outflow that's coming out a stream into the water there, and just fishing up to the outflow. There's a little bit of current. It's worth throwing the nymph in. The real hot spot for grayling that I've found over the years is a bit further up. That's where I'm heading towards, but it tends to be very noisy, so I'm not sure how well it's going to come out on the recording. There's a factory, fish right behind the factory wall, and the fans and stuff on the wall, I can hear them from here, but they tend to be fairly noisy. But we'll see what we can do. At least we've had one. I mean, I'll be honest, this river is prolific, Grayling River. I fished for... Oh, we're in. There we go. Gosh, that was a gentle take. Another very, very gentle take. I fished for... Oh, it's come off. It was only a small grayling, but for about half an hour, 45 minutes a couple of weeks ago. And I will say I had 14 fish. 13 grayling and 1 trout. And that was... Both takes have been barely registering on the loop. Oh, snagged up. And it's off. Right, I'll keep pushing up. It's nice to get... I've not had a grayling out that part of the river before, so that was nice to get one. Have one on. And the bushes are encroaching on the river now. They're getting those lovely overhangs where we can drop the nymph just off the overhangs. The fish love just lying off those bushes. It's a safety from the herons that we get around here, but also picking off those little bits of food that drop off the bushes. Lots of green fly at this time of year. And what you'll see is as the autumn leaves come down the river, in the still sections of river, you'll see the fish almost feeding just off the leaves, and what they're feeding on is all the little green fly that get washed off the leaf. So you can watch a leaf just slowly coming down and see these little fish just sipping round it. You can probably hear the stream as it cascades into the river on my right. I'll keep fishing up this section because I'm not sure if the bit further up's going to come out on the recording due to the noise from the factory. We'll just have to see. So if I stay here for a bit longer, at least I've done some bit of recording and had a fish or two down here. Last time I was fishing up this bit, I bet there was 50 grayling rising in this little glide I'm just working up to now, and they're all sipping tiny midges on the surface, and they drove me absolutely insane fishing on the dry fly. I had a few, but they really wouldn't touch it. They only wanted the microscopic little midges. I think I ended up going down to a size 20 double badger before I started getting into a few fish, and even with that they were ever so fussy. And some days they're like that, and other days you can sling anything out there and they just grab it. That's fly fishing for you, I guess. So again with the Czech nymph, 2 or 3 feet of line, no more than that, greased up the end of the line, and then just got the last 2 or 3 inches of line on the water, just a bit of greased, and that's the section I'm watching as the fly trundles down. I just tap the fly up with a little tap of the rod, and the fly will sink as it trundles down near the bottom, and hopefully over a fish's nose. And you just keep plugging away, and casting and casting and casting, and then eventually that braided loop will shoot away, and you'll strike into what you think is going to be the bottom again, and it's a fish. There's another bridge over the river here that taking workers to and from one of the factories. They've all got their protective hats and suits on from whatever they're doing, high-vis jackets and helmets, and then there's me fishing up underneath it. I'm gonna just keep heading up towards the bridge in the factory. The trees here are half yellow, half green. Still early autumn. Nice and mild as well. In fact, I'm a bit warm in this jacket. I'm just going to keep flicking the Czech nymph up as I go upriver, just in case something's there that's going to grab it, but not really fishing it massively seriously just here because it's a little bit slow. The thing with wading in this slack water is the waves that you create wading, you can see them travelling all the way up the pool and alerting every single fish to your presence. There's Mr. Heron flying overhead. Sorry mate, I'm fishing here. He's a bit aggrieved actually. I think he was coming into land and he's seeing me at the last minute. Oh, we're in. There we are. Something's grabbed it as I'm walking upstream. That just shows one of the things I always teach when I'm coaching is you never walk through river, you always fish through it. Standard size grayling for here, about just under £half a pound, quarter of a pound, something like that. Slipped him back anyhow, or slipped her back, as I should say. I have to say, oh, we're in again. Oh, it's come off. Must be a shoal down there. Let's concentrate on this bit. And you can probably just hear the factory noise getting louder. Right, we're just heading up to my favourite little spot, so we'll see if there's anything there. I'm just fishing as I'm walking, tapping the nymph up, and see if I can just pick up that extra bonus fish. So what we've got here is a factory that's right next to the river. In fact, the water of the river runs right up to the factory wall. It butts up to the river, and alongside it there's a lovely deep channel, and it normally holds hopefully a substantial amount of grayling. They love that fast deep water, so just heading up there now, and hopefully the noise won't be too loud. If not, I'll report back when I get to quieter times. I'm actually fishing under the bridge now. Hammer in straight away. Right on the money, right on my spot. Another grayling. No net today, I'm just I have got a net on my back, but I'm not really using it. You can just bring these to hand and unhook them in the water, really. No stress on the fish. What's that, 3? Put it in the same place. And in again. Oh, I'll count that one. I managed to touch the leader before he came off. It's 4. And so far they've all been a standard size. But I know for a fact there's some bigger ones, especially towards the top of this run. This is when the volume gets a little bit loud. Fishing to all the big extractor fans from the factory. Nice and warm though. Hammering again. A bit bigger this time. Is slightly bigger this one, just taking a bit more effort to get in. That's 6. Missed it. 7. Oh, this is a better fish now. Definitely a better fish. Oh, it's come off. That was a lot better. Probably about a pound. I don't think you're going to be able to hear much here. So the river's really speeding up now. It goes very quick, and this is where I've had the big grayling before in these sections. And what you can do is you can just fish down the seam of the current where the quick water meets the stiller water. And what the grayling do is they'll just sit off the very, very quick water just on the seam near the bottom, and that very fast water is bringing lots and lots of food through in a very concentrated area, so it's a prime live for the fish, which is why you'll get the bigger ones here really, because they've got the best access for the food. You don't tend to get the shoals as much here, but there's a chance of picking up 1 or 2 bigger fish. And you want to fish right up into almost the rapids at the top of the run. So many people don't fish this water. They walk over all these big fish, but that's where they are. And it's always useful to remember that the water on the surface is running pretty much twice as fast as the water down near the bottom. So even though it looks unfishable on the surface, or you think there's going to be nothing there, down near the bottom there's a few rocks for them to get behind, and it's perfect for them. And these grayling are, fast water. They love fast water. It's a bit of a clamber in here, and the vegetation's changed. On the right hand side now I've got all the trees and the bushes, but they're all yellow now. There's no green at all. And on the left hand side the big factory is encroached into the river, and that's what's squeezing the current here and making it go quickly. The river literally runs against the factory wall. Oh, that was a knock. Missed it. I just put my hand up to scratch my ear, and I got the distinct whiff of grayling. We're into the very fast rapids now at the top of the run, really fast. And this is where I'd hope to get into maybe another fish. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I can almost guarantee I'll catch at the bottom of the run where the smaller ones shoal up. Top of this run, sometimes there's a big one here, sometimes there isn't. So see if there's anything here today. Oh, so I think I'm going to call it a day. It was a really short session today. I've only had an hour. I've had 7 fish. 7 nice grayling, all about a similar size. There was one or two bigger ones there. I've lost a couple. So a cracking little session, really enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. To buy any grayling flies, we've got a full range of the Czech nymphs I've been using today. Visit shop.peaksflyfishing.com, or for more information on our fly fishing coaching, it's www.peaksflyfishing.com. Until next time, thank you and bye bye.